here didn't do too bad.
No?
Yeah, he was fine.
Good.
Did they update you on anything?
Yeah, I think was it Bree? I think it was that called the one day.
Uh-huh.
I was quite, I guess pleasantly surprised that he did not, was not fighting, I guess, allowing other people to interact with him.
Yeah.
But, so is that just an indication of, him acting differently when his family's not around? Yeah.
Because you empower him, you give him something to protect.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So I had your husband put him in the kennel.
Yep.
To make the cats off easier. Put him in the kennel. 30 minutes later, I came by the kennel, put my hand by. He low level growled, but didn't like blow up. So I was like, all right, we'll let him chill for like another 30 minutes or an hour or whatever. And then Elias, who's one of my new handlers, I was there observing to handle him. No issues. The only other time he growled was when we were adjusting his collar.
Yeah.
So I think we fitted him with an adapter, a comfort adapter, just in case he was going to be problematic with winging around his neck.
Yeah.
So first time I handled him, I had it between my legs, and I rotated his collar, and removing it no problem, putting it back on, and giving a little bit of a grumble. Didn't blow up or anything. We fitted it to him. So then did you guys drop him off on Friday?
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday was this.
Yeah.
Okay. He was muzzled the whole time. He was drinking water, but then wasn't taking the food.
Yeah.
On Sunday, I wanted to give him a break from the muzzle because he had no flare-ups, and he was fine. So we removed the muzzle. No issues with that.
Wow.
No issues with putting the muzzle back on later on either. Enrique, same thing. He put the bike pads on, and he stood over him and had him like this. And just loop the muzzle like that, no problem. And then by Sunday or Monday, this became finally sleeping.
Yeah.
And calm and quiet. It was Monday. It was on Monday because I remember I was working with another dog here. As a Dobie, and actually socializing with that dog as well.
How did that go?
Fine.
Awesome. Oh man.
So, like, he didn't like it, but it wasn't
right.
like what you're used to.
Right.
So, because the young man's named Daniel, I've been working with him for a while, and he has a Doberman that's bitten a couple people. So he's always like wanting to socialize him. So I was like, hey, we have a dog, and we're expecting a bigger issue.
Yeah.
If you want to, like, bring him on by. So I brought him over. He was muzzled up. He got a little tense when he saw Goku, the dog, which was fine. He walked around, and then when I brought, he actually sniffed the other dog. No issues. He actually came up and started sniffing. But then when Goku came around to sniff him, he was like literally kicking up his back legs because he did not want to be approached.
Yeah.
He started to growl. I think he escalated a little bit, but again, nothing.
But that is very similar to how he is at home too with the other dogs. He likes to initiate, but he doesn't like when they play with him, like they bite his back legs or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of common. Mm-hmm. But that is huge progress, Bessie, for you to be able to do that.
No problem. And then by Monday or Tuesday-ish, everybody was comfortable enough to know that he was not muzzled. Yeah. Only when they would move him around and stuff that they muzzle him, but they would unmuzzle him in the kennel, so you got a break from it. They were actually supposed to fit that with athletic tape, but I think we're out of athletic tape. Because on the top, it started to rub on the ridge. So because of the third strap, so we removed that because he wasn't giving us any issues, so it's just to make that more comfortable for him. Otherwise, no issues. He was quiet in his kennel. The only time would be like he'd get a little worked up if I was passing and they were a little bit too close. Yeah. But he wasn't like anything terrible. He was just quiet a bit, and we corrected him and he would settle. Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That's
but my Monday.
So good to hear.
By Monday he was actually like quiet. Like I'm sure at home he's not like this, right?
Yeah.
So that's just the time here because this emotional state, you can only be like this for so long. Right. And so like the first day or two, he was like standing and just like this, just like, that's how uncomfortable he was. But obviously standing for that period of time. Yeah, it's exhausting. And you want to sit down. Right. So eventually it becomes overwhelming that the dog has to let it go. I'm not, part of it is because it's quiet here, so obviously the stressor of being somewhere else for him. But the fact that it's quiet and structured and that we correct them if he got a little too worked up.
Right.
Is what allowed him to finally like start to just kind of.
But it's also too, and I appreciate the environment because, you know, I can't even imagine in a kennel where they don't control the dogs barking and it is craziness. I mean, he would have stood for 4 days.
Yeah. A client of mine actually sent us, tagged us in a video, because she moved to the suburb, and you can hear all the commotion from the front door.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, when you walk in here, it's just quiet. And so that's part of it.
Yeah.
And then also he began eating, I believe it was on Sunday it was Sunday night. He started finally eating.
Right.
Yeah. Because we tried feeding him through the muzzle and he just kept turning his head away.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, like even with, because he didn't get the meds the first few days, because we couldn't give him, and he wouldn't take anything. But we had no issues with them.
That's awesome. I think part of it too is just overcoming. I think it's good too because again we have an emotional connection to him, so it's like a kid, like you want to give in. So for him to have that behavior broken, kind of in a neutral environment, has to be good too. Because I would think next time, you know, he's probably gonna have the same reaction, but perhaps it'll be after a day, or you know,
yeah,
it
it's
won't
gonna
go
be
as
faster.
long. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why when we do our evaluations, typically, even if the dog's super friendly, I don't think people are aware that when they drop their dog, they're stressed.
Oh yeah.
You know, because they're like, they don't know you're doing the daycare. Like,
Right.
it's just like, that's why the first day typically we don't do anything with the dogs, we just walk them around. Because most places just take the dog and throw them in with other dogs, and then they're already stressed, and then you put them with a bunch of dogs, and the dogs come charging at them, it's even more stress.
Yep.
So that's why it's such a short process. So, but for dogs that I'm familiar with, that I've trained, because I already know what his issues are, and obviously we have the muzzle, we have the equipment, it's not a problem. But, you know, we didn't just rush him into everything, it's just we allowed him to be right in the middle of the floor. He was there observing everything, he wasn't secluded on his own or whatever, like during the day. The only thing is at night we separated him. We brought him here next to my office, and all our boarding dogs were right there in that middle space, just in case overnight. But otherwise, he was actually completely fine. So the next time he's here, he most likely just be back with the other dogs.
Awesome. Oh, that's good. I'm so relieved to hear that.
Yeah.
It did worry, but it was so good after I talked with her because I realized that, you know, that he was at least letting you guys handle him, and so that's amazing.
No problem. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, we didn't get to do much work this week, but again, totally, not totally, but you know, we're really made progress with. I don't even think he lunged. I don't even think I had to correct him with any cars this week.
Okay.
I'm still trying to find a time when I can get out where there are people on bicycles, because that was the other thing that I wanted to work on. But yeah, but the cars and trucks we're really good with. He has not lunged probably for more than a week, I guess, since my last session here at a park. So that's big, because that was always like his thing.
And I think, because when I talked to your husband, I think he had said the same thing too, that he had no issues with him as well.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I know that he mentioned to you was just the thing with him putting his head down now, like when we're approaching people, where he will just kind of like, I don't know if it's submission or if it's because, like, it's a choice, I guess, that he's making, rather than to engage, he kind of puts his head down and moves faster. Fast, rather than, you know, what he would have done was either stop, or he never barked, but would, you know, try to go over to them or lunge. Now he is, it's almost like an avoidance that he's doing.
Behavior?
Yeah.
Sure, and that's fine.
Yeah.
For now, so we have to work in like little chunks. At some point it would be, we're just gonna go and you have to like kind of accept this.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I want him to learn like there are other options other than being reactive or whatever, or stopping.
Well, I think like you were mentioning, he's making a choice because he knows he's going to get corrected with the collar if he does that. So he's doing it his own way. But, and like you said, it's not wrong, but it makes me uncomfortable, I guess, because I want him to, you know, enjoy his walks and not feel like he's going to get corrected. But it's good that he's making the choice, that he's recognizing that what we're doing is working.
And ideally, this is just a phase, if you will. So it's kind of like, stuff like this is like rehab.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we wouldn't want to see our loved ones sweating and shaking and whatever that happens during a drug rehab or something like that. But it's part of the process.
Yeah, you have to.
So it's the same thing for dogs. it's just stages, and the more you expose them, of course, faster and better he gets. There's no timeline to this, every dog is different, but it's just part of the process. Because everybody feels bad, you know, I don't like it either.
Yeah.
But I've seen, the difference is I've seen the other side. Whereas the owners, you're seeing the beginning,
Right.
what we call the messy middle, and then you get the end. So like, my behavior trying to get into the end, because not everybody does, you know, some people just go like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And
But then
like,
what happens though if you don't do it?
it's just constant management.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, and that's what I feel like. I know that I guess I'm doing it for, you know, bigger reasons, but I mean, he's only going to be here for so many years. I mean, I want him to have an enjoyable life. I don't want him to be, you know, emotional and reactive.
Constantly on edge.
Right, yeah.
So we're trying to get him to as stable as can be, and it's going through all this stuff. So once we get to a point where it's like, okay, I think Doug is ready, but then you feel ready, because there's two things going on.
Yeah.
Is he could be ready, and you be like, not yet, right? Or you could be ready, and he's not yet.
Yeah.
So once we get to that point, because what we're gonna do today is focus on the space and pressure exercises, so that we can start exposing them, or you know, start getting that process into play. I don't know, I'm not sure if your husband pulled you in last time on his response to like me moving into the space.
Yep.
So he did better. I got closer than the last time I saw you. But then at some point I got in too close. He lunged, of course. We were maxed out, and I think it took us like a minute of just constant tapping.
That's what Kevin said. We never had gone up to 127. He's like, he was all the way up, and it still wasn't
We got
working.
pretty close though on that
Yeah.
first class. I think we were like,
Yeah, we were.
120
Yeah.
or whatever, so we were just shy of it. And it took quite a bit before it finally kicked in, and he started to back off. And then when I would come into his space, he wouldn't lunge, he would growl. And I just told him, I was like, I'm gonna stand here. He would growl, and you would hear him get really silent. And his video's up now, it's towards the last bit of it. And then when he went, so this is mentioned stress. So he went from this, and when it came in, he quieted down. He started to growl, and I just stayed there. I didn't touch him, I just stayed there. And then once he went to alleviating the stress, I then moved away.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm putting pressure on him. The silence is him saying, this makes me uncomfortable. Lip licking is him saying, this makes me uncomfortable. So it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Right, just like we have words to say like, hey, you're too close to me, right? Or hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me, right? You're making me uncomfortable. We can verbalize that. He doesn't.
Yeah.
So this is where reading his body language and his energy is important. Because then it tells you, oh, Doug feels uncomfortable. Not a bad thing, that's communication, right? It's what does he do in response to becoming uncomfortable that kind of dictates what we do, right? So we let the growling pass, because I wanted to give him the option of like just not full-blown lunging. And then we did a few of those, and I think he lunged maybe one other time, but he backed off much more quickly. And then we did one more of me in his face, and I can't remember if he growled or not. Was there for a little bit, and then I walked away, and then we ended it like that. Okay? So it was good progress. Let's see here.
That's great because, you know, before we came to you, I mean, you saw it, you remember from our first session. I mean, you could be over here and he'd be lunging at you.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
He's making good progress.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to have you do here is I'm going to have you place yourself right here in the middle. Yep. And you're going to go to stop right there, and then lightly up on your leash.
Like up on it? Or choke?
You already said, there you go. Okay. Now you're going to choke up on your leash, and you're going to relax that arm all the way. There you go. I'm going to have you choke up a little bit more. And don't worry about the excess. So you're just going to go right there. You're going to do the quick little wrap around your fingers there. There you go, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to step into his personal space. Where are you at in your collar?
I'm at 37.
You're at 37. Let's go to 75. Okay. And he's come to like recognize this thing now. So we'll see how he
It's
does.
his old friend.
So I put the pants on just to give us a little bit more like room if he wants to actually go for my legs. You can allow him to.
Okay.
And then you're only gonna very slightly restrain him.
Okay.
We want the collar to get Doug to disengage.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just there kind of. So what happened is we had him at 127, Cal was tapping, he wasn't backing off, so then I had him do a little bit more leash pressure to help him kind of kick in of like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
Because he just kept going. And then finally, once he retracted the first time, he was able to retract the other time.
Okay.
So like he had to learn
What to do.
what to do or just how to back off.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we kind of worked on. So I'm gonna come around to you this way, okay? So
Okay.
you just stay right there.
Looking.
So, tip top. Go ahead and go down to 45. There you go. What you can do is pivot to your right so he's to your left. There you go. So I'm gonna come around this way now. So this is what we saw, of course. And then that.
Wow.
Okay, so we're gonna just let this ride for a second so you can get a feel for how this works. And he lets it go. Okay, so obviously the growling is him saying what was happening right now is making him uncomfortable. So we got the initial growl, he let it go. We got the second growl, he let it go faster. Then we got the relaxation. Okay, so like let's say I stayed here for like 5 minutes. You know, complete relaxation afterwards, great. But let's say you growl and let it go, growl and let it go, growl and let it go. That's where he's at.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm gonna step out, he's had a few seconds of, or a minute or so of being relaxed. So what we're trying to teach him is, he doesn't have to be in a tense state of
Fight
mind.
state, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm in his personal space. I'm trying to teach him, you can be in a relaxed state and we're together.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's how dogs start to kind of, so when I get client dogs that fight, almost always they just take the dogs and separate them. So they were still fighting.
Yeah.
They just physically removed them. So last thing they remember was fight.
Fighting.
So then when they bring them back in, boom, they go straight to the fight. If we were to have a scuffle or something, we break it up, the dogs choose to stop fighting, and they continue to coexist. Okay? And then 15 minutes later, we take them out. So last thing they remember was, we got in a scuffle, we got addressed, we chose to stop fighting, and we have to coexist for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we bring them back later, and we go back to coexistence. You see that difference?
Yep.
So for humans, I mean, it's kind of like with people, right? If two people have unresolved tension,
Right.
and they see each other again, you're gonna just go
It's the
right
same
into
thing with,
that.
I mean, we have boys, I mean, we have kids, it's the same thing we do with them.
Yeah.
You have to come to common ground, otherwise, like you said, the tension's gonna stay, or they're gonna continue to pick at each other.
Yep, it's gonna be the next, because as soon as they see each other, boom,
Yeah.
we pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
Very much the same for dogs here, okay?
Okay.
So I'm just getting Doug, and I'm teaching, I'm getting you used to what like his thresholds are and all that stuff. And I try to handle him very little when he was here, because I didn't want to create anything with him
Yep.
in terms of
A
comfort,
bond,
because
yeah.
then I'm like, oh crap, well now I got nothing to work on,
Right.
and I'm the primary trainer. So, him having thresholds is okay. We're just trying to close that threshold, right? We're just trying to close that boundary, and seeing what can we get from Doug. So remember, realistically speaking, the people I care about the most are the immediate people to Doug, and the people you would see on a regular basis.
Okay.
Right? I'm not worried about the random stranger on the street that goes, oh man, I got pits too, like, can I pet your dog, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no. So people within the home, people you would see again, family, I want him to ideally open up to him,
Okay.
okay? And we see what happens. Or he just might be like, look, I won't be a problem to anybody that comes in the house, but I just wanted to be left alone.
Do my own thing,
Then
yeah.
that's just him too,
Yeah.
okay? So I'm gonna come back around.
But unless we do this, we don't know what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I always push for 110%.
Sure.
Even if it's not realistic,
Right.
because we're not gonna get, 110%. We're gonna get like 80%, we're gonna get 90%. But if I only shoot for so much, if I already limit him, I don't know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Right? So like one of my friends, his son has like medical issues, but he treats his son like a regular kid. anything his son wants to do, if his son thinks he can do it,
Yep.
he just goes. He doesn't go like, no, like, you know what, you got this going on. Like, I'm not, no, right? He's not limiting his son. He lets his son set his own
Set his own,
limitations,
set his own ceiling, yep.
So it's the same thing we're doing here for Doug, except unfortunately he's a dog, so we have to do it a much different way, right? But I'm pushing, and then we see what we get. Okay? Because he himself is not gonna wake up one day and be like, you know what? Today's the day. You know, I'm gonna be a social dog.
I'm fixed, right?
Exactly. Okay. So I'm gonna come back around. Right. Now, technically, just so you know, we could correct that.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm trying to get a feel for Doug, see where he's at. So this one he's holding for longer, right? So what can happen here is when I come in the first time and I take off pressure, it allows the brain to reset, but it kind of picks up where it left off at. So that was a longer form of tension, about 30 seconds or so, and then he lets it go, right? Now he triggers again. So this one in. And he lets almost. Any side eye, you just, I don't know if you can see it,
No, I
because
can't.
I can see his left eye is straight at here. Kind of looks like he wants to lay down. Right? He's really, which we really saw just how insecure he was when we left him. Like he was very like, you know, unsure of himself. So go ahead and give a, oh, you let it go. Okay. It's okay. Now up on your top, under the leash. Yep. Right. And then what number are we at right now?
44.
Let's go and go down to 20. Okay.
Never happened to us.
Okay.
With us.
Technically a possibility.
Okay.
You would call that a redirect.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I don't take that personally, but obviously redirect's bad, it can be bad. So we call that redirected aggression.
Okay.
So what happens is he gets so frustrated, he can't get to the target.
Yep.
So he goes for the closest thing.
Okay.
The closest thing, which in that case is the other dog.
Right.
It can be the leash or it can be the handler.
Okay.
So like I got a client right now who her dog bit her. Just, she hasn't done training with us, but as she was trying to control her dog, the dog turned around and then bit her on the thigh.
Okay.
So I was like, that's redirected aggression.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause she was restraining the dog got too frustrated.
He hasn't done it since we took him off the harness though, with the other dogs.
Sure.
So it used to be an issue, but now I think, I mean, we were building the frustration with the harness that we were exacerbating it, I guess, what he already
Gotta go
felt.
somewhere.
He has not done that, but that just reminded me of the reaction when
Right.
we did that.
Now here, if we were going to see a redirect, like right now, all that was actually him backing off.
Yeah,
Okay, it's real noticeable. Dog goes for the leash.
yeah,
You're gonna be fighting him, fighting you.
Okay.
So all that stuff wasn't redirect, but to answer your question outside of that,
yeah,
potentially,
okay,
which is also why we do muzzle.
yeah,
So what I'm trying to teach Doug here, of course, is how to disengage and back off, but also not have to worry about is something gonna happen to you.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of the muzzle and this
gotcha,
stuff.
okay,
Because he can come from me all he wants, I'm protected.
right,
But then if he decides to redirect,
yeah,
then it's gonna be an issue, right? Because seeing his intensity, knowing just how, like, all this stuff was stuff that I was already foreseeing in the consultation.
yeah,
So it's like, I'd rather plan for it, and then
Oh,
instead of like,
yeah, me
oh, let's
too.
see what happens, and like, oh
Right.
crap, like, you bit ya.
Yeah.
Go get a muzzle now, right? Watch here. Now, the beginning stage is when we tap. Don't be discouraged if it pushes him into the behavior.
okay,
Okay, because he's already in the mindset of like, I want to do something.
Right.
So when you tap him, it's like out of nowhere. So then he uses like fight or flight. So he goes,
he's gonna do,
he's gonna
oh,
go
okay,
forward, right? So that's why we have to keep the pressure on. So like Kevin, like he triggered, he went for it. I was like, you know, keep tapping, you know, we kept the pressure on. So finally, he back off. So then we're trying to teach him that e-collar means no, not go, essentially, right?
Right.
But at the beginning, because it happens all the time, like the owner say like, oh, just like, my dog was fine, but then when the cat they blew up. I said, yeah, because they were already thinking about it, and you went to correct them, and they're not there at the point where they're like, oh, this needs to cut the crap,
Right.
so they blow up, and I'm like, you gotta keep the pressure on. And then they go, oh, this needs
That's what it means.
Exactly, doesn't mean to go for it, right? We're trying to condition all that stuff.
Okay.
So that's why at this stage, with the pants and the muzzle and everything, is if he's not learned to disengage, the whole redirecting that we're talking about is a big problem.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
not only is he going to be going for me, but then if we're so high and stuff, I'm like, well, what if he just redirects? He's also going to want to go for the
Right.
closest thing.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to come a little bit closer. So he's staring here. And we're just checking what the threshold is. Okay, so we're going to see if he lets this go. If he doesn't let this go, then this is where he's stuck.
Okay.
Okay, so this is where we will either correct and expect him to blow up, right? Or he lets this go, he starts to decompress and start venting. If he starts venting again, I'm gonna take another step closer.
Okay.
What do we think is gonna happen?
Oh, then he's gonna go.
He's gonna blow up,
Yeah.
right? So we're trying to find where he's at comfort-wise, because at 4 feet to 5 feet, he'll grumble, but he'll let it go, right? Right now I'm a foot away from him. And he started grumbling, that was approximately about 30 seconds, now he's let it go, right? So now I go, okay, cool, but if he was still grumbling, and for 5 minutes he's grumbling, he's not gonna stop himself.
Right.
We have to stop him for
You
him.
have to intervene, yeah.
Exactly, so I'm gonna take another step in, okay? So anticipate he's gonna blow up.
Okay.
Tap, 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 good. Now relax. Good. Tap, 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 tap. Okay, good, now relax. Tap. Good, put it 15. Good. This is way easier than what Kevin and I did last.
Oh, and obviously the effort paid off.
Yeah. So he's stuck here, right? So I'm trying to just see what he does here. But yeah, we were at 127. It was like literally just like
Wow.
non-stop for like a minute. Exactly. Because
And he let go.
yes. So what happens is, that's the hard part, is overriding the extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I
So does he remember that?
that's why this is so simple.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Okay? Because it's all about once the brain has been exposed to pressure to a point where it breaks the mindset, it becomes sensitive.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's why I was like earlier, I did 70 assuming like, all right, I'm probably gonna need 35, I'm gonna need a higher number. It was too much. 45, still too much. 20, still too much. 10, better, right? So just because we're getting an aggressive response doesn't mean it's gonna be punishing levels. Does that make sense?
Yep, yep.
The assumption is we're gonna just slam this dog all over the place.
Well, you're, like you said, you're letting him tell us what his threshold is.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're adapting to him.
Yeah.
So he's learning like, okay, I can listen to 10, or I can listen to 127.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's more comfortable for him to listen to 10, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's still dictating all this stuff. We're just putting him into, like, we're forcing the failure
Yeah.
in order to get this, the success.
Yeah.
Okay? Put a tap. Tap. Good. It's okay. Good. Pull up. Yep. right, is panic barking.
Yeah.
Okay. But the difference from last class to this class, good, there we go. So now he's learning I can be in a relaxed state while Jesse's making contact with me, right? That's why this equipment is so important, because it allows him to give it his best shot, right? So like, let's say we didn't have the means of the muzzle or whatever, right? Is I would like tether him to something and tie him up so this way I can remove me from the picture and come in with my suit and he's doing his spiel, he can bite me and all that stuff. I'm protected and we can still work past the brain.
Yeah.
Okay? Because all of this stuff is in his head. It's the assumption of threat. Okay? And I'm like, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just coming into your space. So he's thinking when I go into this mode, or e-collar happens, if I just stay chill, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So I can have someone approach me when I'm with mom and make contact with me and we're okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We're just gonna ignore this for now. But this is technically stuff we could correct. So I call this like on the fence behavior. Growling, of course, is just him saying like, hey, this is making me uncomfortable. It's what does he do instead, right? Or in response, does he let it go? Or does he continue to escalate and target me as a threat?
Right.
Right? Good. So I'm gonna step away. When I step away, anticipate he's gonna want to, engage.
Yep.
You'll just tap to disengage, okay? Good.
Wow.
So the reason why we assume that is because we're like a fear or insecure based dog. They don't want to move to threat. They typically want to move away from it,
Okay.
unless threat moves in.
Okay.
So when I'm in a space, I'm like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
Right? And then when I move out of space,
Right.
like, all of a sudden he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm gonna have you real quick, you're just do a quick little loop around, you're gonna land in the middle again, okay?
Facing you?
Yes. There we go. Okay. I'm debating if I just move in or if I let him.
Yeah.
Let it go first. There we go. She lets it go. Good.
It's quite nice.
I know, yeah. So like me having my leg here and my sleeve here is like being trapped. You see his tail?
Yep. He's happy. He's not.
So this actually isn't happy. So wagging tail doesn't always mean happy.
Okay.
Wagging tail means something's on the brain.
Okay.
Agitated, but not in a negative way. Agitated is just like really kind of thinking and processing, right? So he's going
Trying to
pretty
figure it out,
quick,
yeah.
exactly, right? And he's like, holy shit, like what the hell is happening right now? Jesse's right next to me. I'm trapped between his leg and his arm, right? So it's a lot of information. Some people call it like flooding. But the thing with flooding is if you're gonna expose a dog, you have to have a means of getting them past the flood.
Yeah.
So like, let's say the first time I met you guys in the consultation when I came into his personal space, remember?
Yep.
That was like flooding.
Okay.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a lot for a dog to be flooding. It was just I went over his threshold, but we never got him to distance, like never stopped, right?
Right.
Here we kind of flooded, where I came into his personal space, put him under pressure, went past the bluff, and then I'm still here, but he's learning to, he's not continuously,
Right.
right? He's like, okay, I can do this and not have to be in that mindset, okay?
Gotcha.
Yeah, and any movement, because once his brain gets comfortable with a certain context, so for instance, when my arm was on that side, right? But then when I move it, it's gonna re-trigger again, because now it's a different context for him. Good. Wait a second. So in terms of the power, earlier when we were going tap, 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 and now we're tap, 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 we can actually create more intensity through quicker rhythm.
Okay.
Just as like another tool for you, is if he ever becomes reactive, if you're like, crap, it's too difficult to turn up.
So that's what I was doing with the cars, because obviously if I have him here, it's hard for me to turn, so I was doing the rapid succession.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
You can create more, more power, so to speak, just through quick rhythm. Okay, so I'm gonna move away, expect of course, engagement. No, very good. Okay. Put him short a little bit more in reach. Yeah. There we go. Now that brain's relaxing. And actually, before I forget, when he was here, I forgot who was going up. I think it was in Rebay. He started. There was one moment in particular. I was gone 2 days and he was here, but it was like he was seeking. Like so, when he came to the kennel, like he actually went up and he was like approaching the kennel and like sniffing
Really?
it. Yeah. I forgot about that.
He's, he is huge. Even at home, he always has to be touching somebody. So he is a very, he's a lover, he's a bonder. That's why this is so heartbreaking for me, because, this is just not, I think, who he...
That's
not what we see. Right, that's not what we see.
So when we talk about behavior, I hear it very often, like, man, just like I was a dog, great dog, 99% of the time. But then if someone comes over, well, I'm like, well, then in the context of someone coming over, your dog is not a great dog, right? And just trying to see that, I'm not saying the dog's not a great dog, but seeing that chunk, because they get too stuck on the 90%.
Yep. Oh yeah, no, we're over that. Yeah, we realize that we need to work on this.
So here you can see how his posture's now changed, the way he's sitting, right? That more relaxed sit.
Yep.
Of course, if I come in again, we're expecting an explosion. But this is him going starting to process through stuff. He's not as agitated as he was the first time I met you, the first time, remember, not even walking past me with the sleeve and stuff, how hard that was.
So now he got up a little bit,
Yeah, it's okay. But it just goes to show the stage of the brain and him giving up on things.
Yeah.
So we have 4 responses. We have fight, flight, avoid, and submission, okay? And submission is what we're looking for. Submission, the connotation of it can be negative, right? Like, oh my God, I'm like,
yeah, no.
But I also look at it as acceptance.
Yeah,
This is just how it is, and as long as I don't act up or act a fool, I'm good. And just accepting the situation. There's not much I can do about it, right?
Right.
I mean, kind of like with the pandemic and businesses and stuff, I had to accept that it was going to be a shitty
right.
few months, right? I couldn't go against it because how am I going to draw people into my
Well, yeah,
business and then
absolutely.
affecting everybody, right? So at some point you have to accept some stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is what we're trying to teach them here: is fighting is not an option, running away is not an option, avoidance is an option. But at some point we need that acceptance in order to kind of go for that next level, like you were saying earlier,
Yeah.
of trying to get them to be social. We have to go through these things, okay? So I'm going to do one more with them. Check my time here. But this is all good. This is all
Yeah, this is,
like kind of obvious progress.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a lot better. Yep, almost. When I saw him without the muzzle the first time, I was like, oh, that's what you look like.
it's like, what's that character, Bane?
I know, yeah. Yep. Tap. It's okay. Tap. But that was a delayed
Yep.
explosion, right? So when we do these things, I always tell people don't be discouraged. Because they're like, oh, the dog blew up. And I'm like, yeah, but it took them.
Yeah.
I went straight into a space. It took them 1 to 2 minutes plus we started laughing.
Yeah.
Right? And then the explosion happened. And then we went to 25, but he's responding to the 25. He's disengaging.
I can't believe where this was.
Right? It doesn't sound like much.
No.
But all these things are like all the stages that I'm familiar with, but because people they want to get to the end, and I'm like, yeah, but there's all this stuff in the middle, and that's why whenever I do behavior cases, I always tell people this is the stuff you need to do yourself, because one, like if you left them here, you wouldn't have seen anything.
Right.
Right? I could have said, yeah, sure, like bring my body, easy peasy, because we're not going to see anything here. But then when you get back home, all of a sudden we have the same problems.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people, do it yourself. You learn a ton more. You see the stages. You're going to be the one living with them for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
So, but all this is good. So I came straight into his personal space. Obviously, he didn't like it, but it took him 1 minute to 2 minutes before he finally gave into that impulse, right? So went from passing by me, right, and not being able to maintain that, to last week when I closed the gap with Kevin and being in just like within 4 feet of him, to today where now I'm in his immediate space, but it's not just an immediate explosion, it's a delayed explosion.
Yeah. Because he's
Okay.
thinking, he's making, he knows now that he can make a choice rather than just go into that
Correct.
aggressive mode.
And the different stages of that choice, right? Because it's what happens if I do it right off the bat. What's happening when I do it when I'm in passing, or when he just gets 4 feet off me, or now he's completely in my space, right?
Yeah.
He has to try all his options and be corrected for them to learn like, oh, these actually aren't options, okay? But all this is good. And then he hasn't been trying to follow me either once I disengage and move away. So all that's good as well. So I'm moving, of course, that changes things. Yep. Good. Going right by the face, of course. So when we do this stuff, we go right by the face because that's obviously where his power is.
Yep.
He knows he has that mouth. So one of the things we always press is when we're touching, we'll touch right by the face and go like, we're right
You're
Yeah.
right in that space, what's gonna happen? Okay, that's good. Do you have any questions?
No, this is awesome. I guess at what point do we start introducing, I guess, friends or family, like you said, the people that are routinely
Sure.
gonna come over?
When this is gonna be, when I'm able to come into a space and he just takes it,
Okay,
you see that panting?
yep,
Ideally, there would be no shift.
okay,
He would be panting, I would approach him, he'd continue panting, he wouldn't quiet, he wouldn't lip lick, he wouldn't close his mouth, there's no tension. Once I get that point,
okay,
then I go, now we can start pushing with people.
okay.
Because if we did that now,
Oh, yeah, no,
right, so he removed himself, so I have to come back into the space. Right. So let me have you pivot to your right. Right, there you go, good. Because he removed himself, because he was going, I'm overwhelmed. So I'm gonna bring him back into it. We remove the pressure from him.
okay,
Okay, because in this, we're controlled context. So we can do the unrealistic here. Does that make sense?
yes,
So at this point, he doesn't have a decision. So it's kind of like if you send your kid to the room, they don't have a decision on when they leave the room.
right,
Right? It doesn't matter how much they dislike being grounded or whatever. It's like, until I tell you can go, you can go.
right.
That's kind of what we're doing here.
So don't allow him to get himself out of the pressure.
Yes,
Do
because
that.
we're in a very controlled context, right? I have my sleeve, I have my bite pants, he's got the muzzle, right?
Right,
So we're pushing past the extreme, kind of, because with the average person, I wouldn't advise they do something like this,
Right.
right? But it's gonna make everything they do easier.
gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure. So in regards to the friend stuff, I wanna get this super easy, right? So like, let's say maybe it's class 5 or 6, whatever. I come in, he's just panting like he normally does. I move into his personal space, he doesn't quiet, he just continues to pant. I touch him, there's no shift in his behavior, he still continues to pant, and I can do more stuff. Because right now, even though I'm pressing his threshold, there's also changes in energy.
Sure,
So like earlier when we laughed,
Yeah.
right? Laughing has been a thing for him. It happened with us twice, and then
Yeah.
the third time was like today, right? When we laugh and he gets pissed.
yeah,
So that would be a thing that we have to work on.
Okay.
Or me kind of jumping and moving around quickly is another thing that we have to work
Sure.
on, right? So,
eliminating all the triggers.
exactly,
Not
right?
eliminating, but I guess getting him acclimated to accepting of what used to be his triggers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at this way, so like last week when we did the 127 and it took a minute or whatever to disengage him, that built us to this,
Yeah,
okay? So if we hadn't done that, we would be doing that today.
okay,
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's all the stages to work on through that stuff, but this is much, much better. Having them at that 25 or whatever, or we're at
we were at 15 at
15,
one point,
yep, we're
yeah.
at 25, yep, so that's good. So now I'm gonna disengage from him. And he's actually leaning into me.
Yeah.
Very good, you can relax,
Good. So as far as homework,
continue with the heel stuff.
saying, okay,
Continue with exposure. If you have a means of exposing them somewhere different, like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something like that,
Yeah.
that's dog-friendly muzzle. But now it's like, take them out into the world,
Okay.
okay? Because like with today, you're not only just like flooding or overwhelming,
Yeah.
you have a means of getting them back.
right.
But what happened before is you expose them,
Right.
he'd be here, but there was nothing to bring them back
We
to.
have tools now to be able to, not control, but I guess, again, help him engage and make his decisions.
Correct,
Yeah.
right? Bring them back to reality of like, look, buddy, like you don't have to be in this panic mode or this level 10 of anxiety.
Right.
You know?
Well, the Home Depot is a good idea because, another one of his issues is the car. Like, he just gets really scared when he's gonna go in the car.
Mm.
So I think to go somewhere, like we know when we're coming here, he's already amped because we've been in the car for an hour. But if we go 5 minutes down the road to Home Depot and get him out there, do the parking lot first, then, gradually expose.
Give it that. There. See how calmly
Yes.
he responded to that?
Yeah.
That's the response we're trying to build with the aggression.
Okay.
Just to give you a picture there.
Yeah.
Okay, because he was grumbling at an employee moving a dog. So earlier, because he was already panicked, when you would tap him, it was just panic, right?
Right.
But when he starts to perceive like, oh shit, like this isn't anything to get more worked up about, it should look like that.
Yeah.
Where you see him like be intense and just disengages and he goes, okay.
Yeah.
So back with the Home Depot, the car thing. Does he go in the car willingly?
No,
He resists.
yes.
Okay,
And it's always been that way, even before we started having these problems.
gotcha. What, you guys are south?
Yeah, we're in Lockport.
You're in Lockport? I'm gonna put you in touch with Enrique.
Okay,
I'm gonna send him to you so he can do the car exercise.
Okay.
It'll be a good experience for him.
okay,
And it's easy enough, it's an easy enough thing that he can help you work on.
okay.
Because part of that problem inside the car starts at not wanting to
Not
go
wanting
in,
to be
right?
there.
And part of it, of course, is the experience of the car for whatever reason.
Right,
But the other part of it is the resistance going in the car. Like when I get people that say, my dog barks in the kennel, I'll ask them, like, does your dog resist the kennel? And a lot of times they say yes. I'm like, well, it starts with the resistance. Once you remove the resistance and the dog goes in by choice,
willingly, yeah.
then we see what are we left with, right? So he'll help you address that, and then he'll also help you address, like, if he's in the car and he's getting wound up,
Yes.
de-escalating him.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
because if he's going to tend for, the car ride, for the vet visit, for going to Jesse's facility, for going to Home Depot, like all these things, and we only target one area,
Yeah,
you're
We're working
gonna
against
get
ourselves,
exactly.
yeah.
So it has to be consistent across the board. So it's an easy enough thing that Enrique can do, and he can travel to you.
that
for
would be
one.
great. Yeah,
Okay.
that would be really helpful, because I think that would, again, we've already seen a lot of progress here, but if we're able to de-escalate him. So what I stopped doing is, after you told me of the first session, I used to pet him in the car constantly.
Oh,
So now
sure,
I stopped
so you-
doing that, because I was encouraging him.
Mhm.
So now I don't touch him at all in the car, and
Mhm.
it's gotten a little bit better,
Mhm.
but it's still, it's still not where it wants to be. And I'm
Right.
still having to physically lift him into the car.
Yeah,
He
because we
doesn't-
need a disruptor.
Yeah,
So like what we were doing today, that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? Is with the e-collar, you're able to snap the brain out of the stress of the situation.
right,
So that he can actually then be in the situation, but as relaxed as possible.
right,
Okay.
great,
So
okay.
good. There's a lot of good progress here.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm happy with all this
absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
This is good.
No, I am too. This is, it's really encouraging.